In this episode of The Gay Bear, I'm going to be answering the long-standing question, cut or uncut, which is better? In this video, I'm going to be using the word banana in place of any other word, but please know that this video is not about the fruit type of banana. The type of banana that I'm talking about comes in a nice tight pair of Calvin Kleins, just so we're clear. Now, bananas come in all different shapes and sizes. Some are skinny, some are thick, some are huge, weighty and girthy. Some are short, some are medium, and some are intimidating or impossible. I think they're impossible. Some of you might not think that. All these differences, however, though, are genetic. However, there is one difference that is man-made and changes from country to country, region to region, and religion to religion. And that is if your banana has skin at the end or not. Now, most countries where the skin is removed, they say it is for religious reasons, except in the USA, where the reason that they remove the skin is far, far, far more bizarre and has something to do with the creation and the creator of breakfast cereal. Seriously? That act in the United States is linked to the creator and creation of breakfast cereal. This is not a joke. If you're an American right now and you're watching this, think about this. You live in majoritively a Christian country. 63% of the population of the United States of America are Christian. However, most of y'all's bananas have had the skin cut. Have you ever wondered why that is? I mean, if you look at other Christian countries such as Spain, Italy, Poland, France, Brazil, Colombia, Costa Rica, Portugal, just to name a few, you won't find bananas without the skin at the end. In fact, the skin is long and very plentiful. So why is it different in the USA? Well, if you stay and watch this video all the way to the end, which isn't going to take particularly long, I will explain to you why, probably, possibly, nearly certainly, the skin on your banana is missing and how that connects to the creation of breakfast cereal. However, before we do that, let's look at the rest of the world. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about other parts of the world, and I'm going to start off in Israel and the Middle East, and then I'm going to mosey on down to Europe and South America. So starting in Israel and the Middle East, I don't think it's any surprise that guys in Israel and the Middle East have the skin off the end of their bananas removed. Now, they say that it's for religious reasons, be that Muslim or Jewish. However, I'm not quite sure, or I'm not quite convinced that that is the reason. I really don't think that God, whichever God you believe in, is sat there thinking about how guys should have their bananas, to be perfectly honest. I don't think God sat there going, I should send a message down to earth and tell them that they should snip snip. I just don't buy it. I just don't buy it. I actually think that the real reason is far, far more logical, and that is that guys from Israel, Jewish guys and Muslim guys from the rest of the Middle East, they literally are so genetically similar that they had exactly the same problem. And that problem was that the skin on the end of their bananas got really tight as they got older or got excited. It became really difficult to keep clean, it became really painful, and they ended up getting infected. And I think that probably quite a few people died basically from getting an infection. And let's be honest, no one wants to die. Nobody wants to die from getting an infection in their banana. What a hideous way to go. Nobody wants to be known as that guy. So I think, to be perfectly honest, someone had the bright idea of, if we cut the skin off the end, that resolves the pain, that resolves the tightness, that resolves the problem of keeping it clean, and that resolves the problem of it getting infected. And then they just said, God wants us to do this. And everybody went, well, if God wants us to do this, then this must be the right thing. And that's the reason why they do it. I honestly don't think that God came down or spoke to anyone or sent a fax or a text message. I think that logically, someone just came up with a bright idea to resolve a problem, and that was it. And if you think about it, this has been happening for thousands of years, and it happened, like, antibiotics are only a recent thing. Twice this year, antibiotics have saved my life. I had an operation, they gave me antibiotics intravenously. I got bitten by something in my garden, and it got really infected, and I was in a hell of a lot of pain, and the doctor gave me antibiotics. I think I would have been dead twice this year if it wasn't for antibiotics. And you're thinking about it, 1,000 years ago, you get an infection in your banana, basically it's a death sentence. So I think that's the reason why they did it. And okay, there are some great benefits to it as well. I've sat there and I've thought about it. One, there's no skin to rip or tear. Why would you rip or tear, I hear you say? Yeah, well, it's a problem that I've had where I get too vigorous, too excited, and a bit too energetic, and I end up going, ow, I have to stop. And then they go, can you show me where your medicine cabinet is? Because I've just damaged myself. So that's the thing that happens. Two, it's more streamlined. So if you think about it, as a gay man, if your banana's more streamlined, it's easier to get it into a, shall we say, a tighter space. Yeah, it's easier to keep clean, so it doesn't get infected. Especially also, it's easier to keep clean so there's no nasty surprise. So if you've spent a long day at work, or you've been to the gym, or you've driven all day, or you've been out for a run, it's not going to be it's not going to be funky. It's not going to be funky. And yeah, it's just less chance of getting infected, and it's easier to keep clean. However, looking at the other side of the coin, you know, when I look at like Europe and South America, they all have the skin at the end still, and the skin is long and plentiful. And I should know because I have experience. I have, should we just say, I am well traveled when it comes to South America and Europe. Italy, Spain, Portugal, Poland, Czech Republic, Costa Rica, Colombia, Brazil. Did I say Portugal? These are all countries that Christian countries that still have the skin at the end, and yeah, that's the norm. And there are also some benefits to that too. There's no chafing. If you're running or something like that, there's a protective layer. If you get hit in the banana, I'm sure it's less painful. I have no way to test that, but I'm sure it's less painful because there's a protective layer on it. But there are some downsides to it. You know, if you've spent a long day at work, it can be a bit funky. And, you know, that's not necessarily nice. But there are thousands and thousands and thousands of nerve endings in the end. And that makes, shall we say, the sensation of using it far more pleasurable. Yeah. So they actually did a survey about this in the UK. There's a game show in the UK, which I now think is available in the USA. And if my memory serves me correctly, it's on HBO Max, and it's called Naked Attraction. And they surveyed English women, British women, and 73% of British women preferred a banana with skin at the end. But they didn't ask any gay men, so to that survey. But there you go. I mean, 73% of English women prefer it to have skin at the end. And I guess after that, everything comes down to personal preference, whether you like it or whether you don't. Personally, for me, I like it because at the end of the day, they all look, if it's got no skin at the end, they all look really, really similar. If it's got skin at the end, they all look slightly different. Sometimes the skin's short, sometimes the skin's long, and as far as I'm concerned, as you take their trousers down, it's a nice surprise. You never quite know what you're going to get, and it makes every day feel a little bit like Christmas. Okay, so if you've made it this far in the video, you're probably an American guy who has just probably realized for the first time that you live in a Christian country, but yet you don't have any skin at the end of your banana, and You're the only country, or probably the only country in the world that does that, despite you living in a Christian country. And you probably want to know why that is and how that has anything to do with the creator of breakfast cereal. So I need to do two little disclaimers before I dispense this information to you. One is that the current version of the breakfast cereal that we eat, which is still manufactured today, that we all probably ate as kids, has nothing to do with the creator of that cereal. He disowned the version that we eat today because it has sugar in it, and he saw that as evil. I'm going to explain that to you in a minute of why he thought that was evil. So yeah, the company that currently make this breakfast cereal has nothing to do with the original creator. The company that make the breakfast cereal was founded by his brother, and they basically had an argument because his brother decided to put sugar in the recipe. Right, so the other thing is that this story has a few dark moments, so I'm just warning you that it has a few dark moments. Cool. So there's a breakfast cereal. This breakfast cereal, it's bland, it's tasteless, it's boring. But we all probably ate it as kids. And this version actually has sugar in it, so the original version was far more bland and boring. Now, the creator of that breakfast cereal, he believed two things. One, he had two missions, let's put it that way. He wanted to stop acts of carnality. Specifically, he wanted to save the souls of teenage boys and teenage girls from the sin of self-stimulation, because he basically wanted to keep them pure, so if they died, their souls would go to heaven. He believed there was two ways to do this. The first way was that he believed that food with taste riled up the senses and encouraged impure thoughts, which led to acts of carnality, which we all now know in today's modern life that's absolute rubbish, and it's got something to do with your hormones. Also, when it becomes spring, I don't know if anybody else gets that, but when spring arrives for me, I'm definitely feeling that I want to commit some acts of carnality. And I think that's got something to do with like genetics from the past, but there we go. Anyway, the other thing that he believed is that if you could reduce sensation, you would reduce temptation, and therefore reduce the act of self-stimulation. So this guy, the creator of this specific breakfast cereal, opened up a health spa where the rich and the famous went and paid to go there, and he taught them lessons of repressing impure thoughts, abstaining from acts of carnality, eating bland food that essentially must have been so boring. And he thought that taste like sugar and salt and things like that were essentially evil, and like something he just thought it was evil. The other thing that he encouraged was he did something to girls that I'm not going to talk about because it was hideous, absolutely hideous. I mean, if you had to reduce sensation on a girl, I don't even want to say what he did because it was hideous. So, but luckily that didn't make it into the American culture. But what he did to the boys did make it into the American culture, which is why, as you're an American man and you're probably watching this, basically, he figured out that the skin at the end of your banana is full of nerve endings, and essentially it creates a great sensation if you use it with self-stimulation. It also, apparently it feels better in acts of carnality too. He basically managed to convince the religious community in the United States that to stop boys from the act of self-stimulation, if you cut the skin off the end of their bananas, it reduces sensation and reduces temptation, therefore keeping their souls pure, giving them a higher likelihood that they would go to heaven if they died. So yeah, I've got so many opinions on this, and I'm biting my tongue because let's just say I disagree with him. I think he was an absolute nutcase. we all obviously, but that was then and this is now, and we all know things very, very differently. But now you know, American men, that every time you see your banana and you realize it's got no skin at the end, you now know why. It has to do with the creator of breakfast cereal and his extreme religious views. Now, this seems a bit weird for me to ask at this point in the video, but if you enjoyed this video, which you probably didn't because it's quite a horrific subject, but I would really appreciate it if you would hit subscribe or at least like it. I'd also be interested to know, I mean, obviously I'm a gay man. Please see the gay bear pride flag behind me. I'm sure you're a gay man as you're watching this, so I'd really like to know in the comments down below if you prefer bananas with skin at the end or bananas without skin at the end. So yeah, that would be really good. And honest, every like, every subscribe and every comment really tells the YouTube algorithm that I'm doing a good job and you like it, and therefore my video will get offered up to more people, and that really helps my channel. Right, I am now going to go and protest against the creator of this breakfast cereal. I'm going to pour some milk on this breakfast cereal, and then I'm going to eat it. And then I'm possibly going to engage in an act of self-stimulation. I'm doing it purely out of protest because I would like to prove him wrong, and it's a good way to spend my afternoon. So you all have a fantastic weekend, and I will see you in my next video. And most of all, most importantly to you all, love, hugs, and mwah, have some bear kisses.